Welcome to the FUMSnow Podcast Show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for being here with me today. This is kind of an unusual episode for me. No, it's totally unusual. I normally interview guests, and today it's just little old me. Um, I'll give you the lowdown on why this is happening. Podcast guests are known, they're infamous for canceling at the last minute. It's not just on my show. I talk to a lot of podcasters. We are all dealing with the same thing. I don't know why, but it's just happening more and more frequently. And I had 2 cancel on me last week, very last minute, which just throws me for a loop. I'm on a real tight schedule. I just figured it out, and I think I put in for each podcast episode between 4 and 5 hours of my own time, and then I have a podcast editor that does work on it. So it's a big deal. I don't know if maybe people don't really understand how much work goes into it. Maybe if they did, they wouldn't be canceling so quickly, but that's neither here nor there. Point is, I was down without any guests coming on, and I posted on social media what a bummer that was. And people suggested that I should just do some solo shows, which is very interesting and obviously offers a really easy way around guest issues. But I thought, what the heck would I talk about? So I asked that on social media over at the FUMS Facebook page, and people said, you and what you're doing. So, okay. That doesn't sound very interesting to me, but I do have a lot of interesting stuff going on. One other thing that people were saying was that they haven't ever heard me kind of tell my story, which is interesting. I guess I've put it in print. I don't think I've ever shared it on the podcast. So I'll just make it super, super brief and let you know that I was diagnosed in 2008 with multiple sclerosis, and I can trace my symptoms back to 1987. No joke. But I mean, MS never crossed my mind, and I came up with every kind of excuse for what that was. And it certainly, MS was never in the mix for me until 2008. And I'm doing phenomenally well. That's not to say that I don't experience relapses and symptoms. Truly, if I stop and think about it, I could tell you I'm having symptoms right now, which I wasn't really cognitively aware of until I just said that. So I think part of the reason that I'm doing so well is that very fact, because I would have to stop and think about it. So I think it's equal parts luck and attitude. And so it's because of that attitude that in 2011, I decided to start the FUMSnow.com website to give people hope and humor. Because when I was waiting for my diagnosis, and I was, of course, online, oh, it was such a scary landscape. It was a terrible picture that was painted for me. I mean, nowhere along the lines was it suggesting that there was any real life to be led after a diagnosis of MS. So after I had lived with it for about 3 years, I thought I need to put something up online that lets people know that there is life after a diagnosis, and it can be a great life. So, so that's what I did. That's why I started FUMSnow.com. And by the way, I really wanted FUMS.com, but that was owned by, let me think, it's the First United Methodist School in Kissimmee, Florida. So I reached out to them and offered to buy the URL from them, and they said, thank you very much, but we've been using it for a while. We're happy with it. I said, okay, but you might get some weird emails. I don't know if they ever did. I have never heard from them again, but that's why it's FUMSnow.com. Plus, that's the way you should talk to it, tell it right now. I mean, don't wait, say FUMS. So that was the impetus for starting the website in 2011. I wish I could remember right off the top of my head, which I cannot do, what year I had to leave my job. So I was a stay-at-home mom for quite some time, and gosh, I wish I could remember. I should have done math, and I hate math. But regardless, when I started the website, I was at home with kids. Um, and then I went to work full time doing marketing for a physical therapy company in the area. And the job grew fast. And I was responsible for a lot more um, clinics and whatnot than I originally started out with. And stress was awful. And eventually, I had to leave my job, which I loved my job and I loved the people I worked with, but it was time because in those last 6 months, I had had, I think, six minor accidents. And then one day I could not tell the difference between which was the brake pedal and which was the gas pedal and which side of the road I was supposed to be on. And thank God, I at least had my shit together enough to know that that was not a good thing. So I pulled over and called my husband. And yeah, he got me home. But that was, hello, obvious. Can't be driving all day every day if you don't know which one's which in terms of the pedals and which side to be on. I was going to kill myself or somebody. So I quit my job and I came home, and it was the best thing for my MS for sure because the stress went way down and I could rest when I needed to, and I ate better and I stretched whenever I needed to, and I napped and I put heat on my back because I've got um, real tight muscles and spasticity and whatnot. So that was great. That part was great. But my paychecks had quit coming, but my bills hadn't. So I needed to come out of my bliss there and realize I needed to figure out a way to take care of some bills and take care of me. I looked around and what I focused on was FUMS. I loved it. I loved feeling like I was actually helping somebody. So I thought, well, I wonder if there's a way to monetize this. And about that time, people had been writing in and asking me, oh gosh, honestly, I bet three a month at least, were asking me questions about bowel and bladder issues in MS. And thankfully, and I'm knocking on my head right now, literally, I do not experience any of those symptoms, so I didn't have the answers. But one of my very best friends, Erin Glace, is in fact a pelvic floor dysfunction physical therapist. And she specializes in this stuff. So I would ask their questions to her, and she would tell me, and I would tell them, and it was completely inefficient. So I asked her to write an ebook for my site. And she said, well, I'll write it if you'll write it with me. And I thought, well, I have zero to add to this. I have no experience, whatever. Um, but we figured out pretty quickly. I mean, that is an uncomfortable conversation to have anyway. It's just not a fun subject. And I'm a little bit of a smartass, if you hadn't noticed. So we decided she would write the smart thinky parts and I would write the smart assy parts. And so we came up with this ebook. It's called Bowel and Bladder Issues in Multiple Sclerosis by two pea brains with potty mouths talking shit about MS. And it's actually for sale on the website at fumsnow.com/ebook, or just if you go to fumsnow.com, it's right there on the homepage. So that was my first foray into monetizing my site. And the ebook is selling very nicely. Thank you very much. I've also added it to Amazon and it sells well over there as well. So that's kind of the nice trickle effect. And then I added affiliate marketing. And if you're not familiar with what that is, that's where you share products that have helped you. Well, let me change the tenses there. Products that have helped me, um, that I would naturally share with you all anyway. I mean, that's the point of my site. But I can add a link to that product. And if someone purchases from that link, I get a really small commission. So, for instance, people always ask me about what supplements I take. So I linked out to a couple supplements that I take, one of which is myotin, which is phenomenal. And I credit it for really helping me with cog fog and fatigue and actually hair regrowth, which I have such thick hair, I didn't even realize that I'd lost as much as I had. Thank you very much, Tech Federa. And oddly, it helped with rosacea too, but that's so bizarre. That doesn't really make sense for what it is, but whatever, I'll take it. So I wrote a blog post about it, just sharing, with my friends, my community, you all, that this has really helped me. And then there's a link to it. And anybody that purchases from that link, I get a small commission. So that in a nutshell is affiliate marketing. And that is a really short explanation of a really big subject. But that was the number 2 way that I monetized FUMS. Eventually, I started a podcast. Hello. And I did that honestly because I'm a huge podcast addict. I'm constantly listening to podcasts. It still amazes me that no matter what I'm interested in, I can do a quick search and find a podcast on it. I really can. And I guess that's the way I learn best is, I watch videos and I listen to podcasts. Um, and it just it feels so personal to me. I really believe those people are talking to just me. They're in my ear as I'm mowing the lawn or going for a walk, or I'm listening to them as I'm driving, whatever. They're with me all the time. They're my buds. So I decided I wanted to have that kind of personal relationship with my audience. So I started a podcast. And I did that specifically for that reason. I really just wanted to have another way of talking to my audience and being closer. And then, but as a nice addition to that, a nice bonus, once you hit a certain listenership level, companies start coming and start calling and want to pay you to be mentioned, have themselves or their products mentioned on your podcast. So you'll hear me talk about Audible, um, Blue Apron, several different companies. And also, I can advertise my own products, like I talk about my ebook on the podcast and whatnot. So those are 3 ways that I've monetized FUMS, and it's gone very well. Thank you very much. And then a vice president of a very large health information company called me and said, actually, he emailed first and he said, "Hey, interested in talking to you about partnering on a podcast. Let me know if you're interested." Totally thought I was being punked. I think I talked to him 3 times before I believed that he was really who he said he was. But truly, they had never done a podcast before, and he heard my podcast, which I'm just going to throw it out there. If y'all are ever considering doing a podcast, there's so much return on your investment because I hear from people all the time that hear this podcast and they're just interesting, wonderful people. And then all these opportunities come up because of it. So there's other opportunities other than sort of direct monetization or direct payment. It's kind of, and it's just fun. Anyway, I digress. So all of that was starting to happen, and kind of, I guess, through him initially, I started to learn about this patient advocacy industry, and I'm using air quotes there. But truly, this patient advocacy um, industry that exists that I didn't know anything about, and um, it's actually they're looking for people who have various diseases because they don't, and because we can tell them how best to market to our audience, for instance, or how to write for our audience, that sort of thing. So I started writing articles for some of these big health information websites. Um, and I got paid for it. I was just blown away. I was blown away. So, I'm hired to do these podcasts for this company, and I got paid nicely for that. I'm writing articles, and I get paid nicely for that. And P.S., they're articles where I'm just sharing what life with MS is like. So, not hard. Anyway, I say that, but I know it's writing is hard for some people. It comes very naturally to me. So I recognize how lucky I am in that way. But I'm just trying to demonstrate what is available out there that I had no idea of. So once I got in with this company and I did 6 podcast episodes for them, they were looking for someone to be an admin for their Living with MS Facebook page. And they wanted to know if I'd be interested. And they saw that I had already been doing that for FUMS. So yes and yes, thank you very much. So I'm doing that for them. And then right after I started that, well, a couple months in, they built a new app called the MS Buddy app, which P.S. awesome app. You should download it and get on it. And I do live chats Sunday through Thursday evenings, so check it out. But they needed a guide, so they hired me for that too and paid me nicely. And then other companies, I kind of stuck my hand up and said, "Hey, I'm doing this." They found me, I found them, whatever. But for instance, I produce videos for Multiple Sclerosis.net and Health Union. Fantastic company, by the way. Um, and I mean, that sounds so much more impressive than it is. When I say I produce videos, that means I'm holding my iPhone up and I'm talking into it. And then they zhuzh it and put some subtitles on it and put it on multiplesclerosis.net. So, and they pay me. And then I write articles for lots of publications. So, this has been pretty amazing to have identified this patient advocacy industry as well. So I have my online business that I started. I do patient advocacy gigs, and then in the process of finding podcast guests, I learned about flexible work recruiter companies that are looking for people to work from home or wherever. And I just thought that was a great fit and would be very interesting to my audience. So I interviewed a couple of them, and I will link to those episodes in the show notes as well. And just so interesting. And I will say that there are a lot of scammers out there, but these are well vetted, really good, solid companies that are doing this. And they have the most interesting, huge array of part time, some are full time, some have benefits, but they're flexible remote jobs. Um, so, that's so cool. And I wanted to bring that to everybody too. So, when all is said and done, um, I'm making a high five-figure income from all of these things, and I felt like I had to share all the knowledge I had acquired in learning how to do this with the MS community and other chronic conditions communities. Hence, the birth of the idea of patients getting paid. And this has been over a year ago I thought about it because it just made sense to me. My gosh, I'm doing better monetarily and doing way better health-wise since I left my, 9 to 5 job, working for myself. My stress is down. I go to doctor's appointments and I don't have to ask off for work. I take time off when I need it or want it. It just it accommodates my health and it pays my bills and then some. So I really want to share that information, everything that I've learned, and certainly I've had successes and I've had lots of failures, but I want to save everybody from that, from the wrong turns that I took. Um, I mentioned that there were a lot of scammers for the recruiters, and that's true. There's even more scammers to teach you online business training or how to start an online business or how to start a podcast, all that. Oh my gosh. And I'm being totally honest with you. I really spent a lot of money on that kind of garbage. I got scammed, absolutely got scammed several times, but I found the real deal. And that's what I want to put in this Patients Getting Paid course. So everybody can miss out on my missteps and failures and just get to the good stuff. So I am currently in head down mode, working to build out the courses and the membership community. So there will be these courses that are dense in information on how to do what I've done and how to find, who are the contacts and how to approach them and how to get found and all of those sorts of things. And then there's also going to be a membership community with forums where everybody can support each other and we can celebrate our wins and console each other and talk about tips and tricks and what's working, what's not working, and all that sort of thing. So that's the vision. This is so much bigger of a job than I could have ever imagined, but it's going to be very clear and concise and um, very dense with knowledge and helpful information and lots of support and love. So, if this is something that you're interested in, I'm hoping to be launching it. No, scratch that. I'm going to be launching it in the fall. There you go. I'm going to be launching Patients Getting Paid in the fall. So if this is something you're interested in, please get on the waiting list now at FUMSnow.com/patients getting paid. Just jump on that email list. And as soon as I launch it, which will be in the fall, I will let you know. I'll send that out. And I'm also sending out emails here and there, just letting everybody know what I'm working on and asking for people's input, which reminds me, I just started a Patients Getting Paid Facebook page, and I'm on there almost every day. So I'm asking people, I'm posting, hey, I'm working on this. What do you think about this topic? Do you want more information about this? Is this not that interesting to you? So if you'd like to be a part of building this and get in what you want to learn about, go over there and join us over there. So anyway, I appreciate you listening to me drone on, and it was not as painful as I thought it was going to be. I hope it was helpful to you to learn a little bit more about me and what I've been up to, what I'm doing now. And I hope that you will join me for the Patients Getting Paid stuff. And please, if you would do me a big fat favor and email me at Kathy with a K, Kathy at FUMSnow.com, and let me know what you think about this solo thing. Because if it's really painful, I'm not going to do it anymore. I don't want to waste anybody's time, mine or yours. But it certainly is nice for when people don't show up for their interviews. And it's just nice to hear from everybody because honestly, I'm literally sitting in my clothes closet right now because it is the best acoustics in my house. So it does feel like I'm just talking to my computer. So I'd love to hear from you all that you actually did, in fact, hear this podcast episode. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think about Patients Getting Paid. Let me know if there's anybody you can think of that would be interesting you'd want to hear on the podcast. And any ideas that you have for the Patients Getting Paid as well. So thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it. And don't forget to speak to this stupid disease as it deserves. Middle finger extended. Say FUMS every day. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.